survive, will flourish, will prosper, providing it adapts to changing circumstances, providing it shows its capacity to reform, provided it meets the needs and aspirations of the people of its member states. And I think that's why we felt that the renegotiation process was so important in kind of flagging up some of the areas where we felt that reform was really needed, and where we felt that we obtained a strong positive result with our partners.
Mr. Gallagher, and Turkey.
I mean, I think that's a matter for discussion between the member states of the European Union. I think that Turkey is an enormously important country. Turkey is an enormously important country, for example, in the context of the current migration challenges facing the European Union as a whole. I think that we felt that the agreement secured with Turkey was an extremely positive one in helping to address some of the challenges of migration routes which have been controlled by organized crime groups, which put migrants in an enormous amount of personal danger. There are a lot of fragility around that. There are important discussions continuing with Turkey. The relationship is enormously important. My Prime Minister certainly hasn't put a target date for Turkey's accession to the EU, so I won't do so. But Turkey remains an absolutely crucial partner, and the continued dialogue with Turkey is vital for the UK and for the European Union as a whole.
I have no problems at all with the first part of Ambassador Brummell's answer. I think the EU needs to be adaptable. I mean, Radu Magdin talked about a common project going forward. I mean, for whom is this project common? It's for a tiny, isolated elite groups who are no more representative now of European-wide society than those who were running East Germany were before 1989. So, you know, I think the EU has to reach out and has to understand that its project is under this question and has been rejected by too many people, and it has to think that there could be an extinction event. In which, because of low-grade statesmanship, the EU unravels almost as quickly as the Soviet Empire did at the end of the 1980s.
Turkey.
I don't think Turkey will join.
Okay, we have only 8 minutes, I think. The ambassador has to go. So we have only 2 questions, please.
Only 2 questions,
We have
please.
one here, the winner, and
Only 2 short questions, please.
Good evening. I would like to ask you something about yes or no. Sorry. In case of yes, even closer? Oh, okay. In case of yes, the shock will be strong. The shock will be strong for the city. I have to say that I'm a little puzzled because in the Leave camp, the donors are mostly city men, the most important donors. The city will be shocked, so that means an effect regarding the pound. Now, is the UK ready with some policies to protect the pound? Because, of course, not only the city, but also other cities in the world will try to profit. That's for the yes situation. For the no situation, are you ready to have some more strong policies to rally other EU countries to fight this bureaucracy, this EU bureaucracy monster, and reform the EU? And I would like to say, especially to Mr. Gallagher, I'm sorry, but I'm also from the Eastern Europe. I do not think that the burden of this monster, EU bureaucracy, can be put only on Mrs. Merkel's shoulders, because it's a monster with a long history. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes or not?
I mean, I think the question is really, yes, the question is really about the kind of implications for a stay vote or implications of a leave vote. And clearly, it's a really important referendum. It's a really important decision, and the implications in both senses are quite considerable. As I say, in the case of a leave, the policy papers which the United Kingdom government has prepared indicate that it would be extremely challenging, just the whole process of negotiation of a withdrawal, of new arrangements, of arrangements with third parties is a process that would take a decade or even longer. There would be a huge amount of uncertainty on all sides around that. So there's a lot of difficulty with that scenario. In the case of a vote to remain, what would happen would, in the first instance, be that the renegotiation arrangements agreed by the Prime Minister with his EU partners would at that point automatically come into effect. And I think our view is, as I say, that the UK's best place is in a reformed European Union, but that reformed word is important. So I think it is very much a matter of not kind of accepting a business as usual, but really working with our European Union partners to address the sorts of factors which have caused concerns not just in the UK but in all parts of the European Union, including things like really tackling the bureaucracy and red tape which have led a lot of small and medium-sized enterprises in different countries of the EU to kind of despair about the challenge and remoteness of the organisation.
Thank you. The last question for Mr. Ambassador, because he has to leave. And yes, but Mr. Ambassador.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I don't. Britain can only help Eastern European countries if there is a nucleus of reform in those countries. If we leave, then I think one way we can help is not by sending Poles, Romanians, Bulgarians back home. I mean, you are all mostly welcome in Britain, and I think the degree of hostility has been greatly exaggerated. You never hear reports about Romanians being threatened or beaten up in Britain. I mean, I think most Romanians are happy there and don't feel under any kind of pressure.
Thank you. And the last one.
Good evening, Excellency, Professor Gallagher, Radu, if he's here with us. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Diana Gradinaru, I'm a journalist. My question is, Mr. Ambassador, do you think that the British people is well informed on what it actually means to stay or leave the EU? I'm asking this because at the beginning of the debate you said something. You said there is an emotional campaign going on, and from what I know, in an emotional campaign, usually there are a couple of elements that are extracted, isolated, and promoted. So that might mean that the debate is not actually as round as it should be, with both advantages and disadvantages being discussed. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's a very good question, although it's a very good question in respect of almost any referendum or almost any election. I think what I can say is that from a government perspective, we have put a lot of effort into fulfilling our the duties which are assigned to us, which include the production of a whole range of policy papers about what the deal signed up secured by Prime Minister Cameron actually means in practice, about possible alternatives to EU membership and around the implications for withdrawal. I think that clearly now it's in the realms of politics. The 27 May, I think, is the formal start of the kind of formal campaigning period. There's already a lot of activity from the representatives of the two camps. of course, there is a lot of emotion in the debate, but what I can say is that this is clearly a really important issue, and I think it is one of those issues where people will be voting on the actual issue that is written there on the ballot paper. This is not this is not a kind of proxy referendum. This is a referendum where people are given a really tough decision, a really important decision to make about whether to stay or whether to leave. And I think, as we saw with the Scotland independence referendum, when there is a really important decision to make, turnout will be very high. Of course, the issues are very complicated, but I think the gravity, the importance of the issue is recognised. So I think people will be, taking the vote very seriously.
Thank you. So, Radu, are you with us together? Radu, do you hear me?
Like the previous question, which I believe was because the current one deals mostly with the, let's say, with the ambassador, and I resonate with him. The one as regards the EU and as regards Turkey, I do believe that flexibility is key. Says that we should basically just listen to some elites back in Brussels or national capitals, and that they will show the way. There is a need for a lot of engagement and for a lot of, let's say, raising some more charismatic people back in politics in different capitals. But I do believe, as regards Turkey, I don't believe that Turkey will come into EU. I don't think we did a proper expectations management as regards the Turks. They have been knocking at the Europe's doors for, let's say, 5 decades now, from their first signature of a trade agreement with us. There have been development, more serious development as regards them under British presidency of the EU back in 2003. Romania, like the UK, support the Turks, but let me say that as somebody who works around big politics and so on, there's a lot of things that politicians can't say. And what consultants can say or analysts can't say. I think it's difficult for countries looking also at demographics to accept a player inside which almost instantly becomes number one. Because if you look at demographics for the next decade, basically, if Turkey comes into the EU, it will be suddenly the new Germany as regards voting power, as regards, and of course, looking also at the attitude under Erdogan and his future successors. I don't think it's going to be an easy partner.
Thank you, Radu. And now, this is the real final points of our debate. Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. Thank you, Mr. Ambassador of the Czech Republic. Thank you, Mr. Gallagher. Thank you, Radu. Mulțumesc, Radu. And the document, please.